Ta-da! There we are, we have sound. Okay.
Then I won't say anything about that.
So let me repeat everything I just said. Well, we didn't have sound. This time we only ran 2 minutes without sound. Last time we ran about 13. So what I was really after was to be able to present some of the items and characters that we've actually done from end to end, from concept through to animation. There we are, we have sound. And oh, we have sound. And maybe even adding sound to the characters. So what I've done is I've taken a whole bunch of the videos that the guys have done for doing the concept art for the crossbow, the modelling of the crossbow, the low and high poly sculpts of the crossbow, the texturing of the crossbow, and the animating of the crossbow. And I've sort of gathered them here today, and I'll just present bits and pieces from each of those things so that what we'll go through is the complete process of doing the crossbow.
And I'm going to eat Becky's.
I'm going to eat biscuits as well, so at some point you'll have to talk so I can do that. Alright, I'll just set you off on a swearing tirade and then I'll be all set. Okay, so what we're looking at on the background there is Lincoln actually setting up the crossbow. Now he's done some work that you can see previously. He's even done a simple model at some point to sort of get the 3D of it. But what he's actually setting up here is our orthographic views of the crossbow. So he's done his original concept art for the crossbow, and as part of that he did a basic blocked in model of the crossbow. It's a shame we didn't get that bit. One of the really frustrating things actually is working with these guys is they don't like to show the mess of what they do, and there is a lot of mess in what they do. You try things, they don't work, you try them again, they don't work, you try them again, and somebody likes this bit and somebody likes that bit, and eventually it comes together into something fantastic. But what these guys like to show is the whole process is clean from beginning to end. They started this way, they worked through, it was beautifully executed all the way along and finished with something beautiful. It doesn't happen like that. I'm really sorry for the false impression, but you are sort of dealing with people's egos when you try to present it any other way. So so we're doing the best we can. So this is Lincoln actually now setting up the orthographics. So one of the things to notice about that, and I can probably speed that up so we can go a lot faster through this, is you can see he's sort of aligning all the views that he has of the crossbow, basically making sure that they are correctly scaled and that orthographically the various points on them actually match up with each other. So the tip of the crossbow itself, the bow part of the crossbow on the top right, matches up with the tip on the top view. I don't know what he was doing here. He was clearly experimenting with something that never came about.
He's not here to defend himself.
No.
Funny, really.
We can rip the shit out of him.
Can say whatever we like.
Yeah. So now he's got the bow part, the top and bottom of the bow part matching the top and bottom of the bow on the side view. So that's aligned with the top view. And now he's actually blocking in some design work for the scroll on top of the crossbow. So this is essentially actually anybody that's watched Lincoln work will be amazed at what the guy can do with copy paste and free transforms. He just makes, well, you can see here that was completely flattened out the top part of the crossbow with a free transform.
And ta-da!
So he's preserved the material. He's got the etching that goes on top that he now overlays. So that is really cool stuff. I'm also going to have another biscuit because I feel a biscuit is warranted. Paleo cookie. Remember I pushed these before.
I think a
what's
biscuit
the
is
name
all
of, what's the name of the shop?
green.
Green. From Green, next door to us. Out beside Little High on... between, I guess it's on Chilham Street is probably.
Means a lot to the people watching in Sweden.
I'm sorry, Sweden, you cannot have these cookies. Alright. So, what did I actually pump the speed of that up to? It was... we'll run it through even faster. Okay, yeah, so now he's making the screw textures that actually go on the top. So yeah, they look pretty good in concept art, but when Sergi actually gets hold of those screw things, he'll actually do some normal map stuff with those screws to actually give them depth when he finally gets them, so the black areas will become deeper than the...
It's an interesting grey area, isn't it, though? Like, where does the artist stop and the modeller begin? Because Sergi does an awful lot with
He does.
his texturing and his modelling and so on.
And we have mentioned before,
And he's creative and he owns it.
the models end up close to the concept art, but they're never the same as the concept art because the modeller is themselves, or are themselves, an artist, and they have their own input. One of the, and of course, when you get to texturing as well, there's another artistic input. Thankfully, same artist for us, but it could yet be a third input to how the thing actually looks. Like, I know that scroll work, for example, does get etched in, so that there is a normal map around the scroll work, so, so there is depth to the actual grooves.
And in a lot of cases, Sergi's decided that he's wanted to decorate it in a particular way or decorate a weapon. And he's not working 100% specifically to what Lincoln has set out, which is awesome.
And occasionally we've confused things as well by going the other way. So Sergi has done some extra embellishment on something that we think, hey, that's a really cool idea. It wasn't in Lincoln's original concept. We think, hey, that's a cool idea, but maybe we should get Lincoln to do it. So then we take it from Sergi back to Lincoln. Lincoln redoes it, and it goes back to Sergi for doing his normal mapping and so forth. So yeah, really interesting workflow between the artists, and I have to say we've gathered a pretty good team here because they've got a great collaborative sort of nature. They
work really nicely
well.
together. They play nicely in the sandpit.
They do. Alright. Let's advance that a bit. Quite a ways, in fact. Alright, Lincoln's gone off for a cup of coffee. Let's advance it further. Alright.
Why does Indie Gave Dem Bot follow us on Twitter all the time and then unfollow us and then follow us and then unfollow us and follow us?
Probably we're sitting on some frequency tipping point that sometimes we're below it and sometimes above it, or some metric that it's measuring we're sometimes below and sometimes above, so it knows to unfollow us when we get below, follow us when we get above. And one day when everybody pays attention to our tweets and we tweet lots, then it will just stay subscribed.
Well, quite a lot of people pay attention to our tweets, but I can't see the pattern myself. But anyway, it's annoying.
We should still do one of these streams on marketing at some point.
We should learn some things about marketing at some point. Then we can stream it.
They could stream us learning.
I think we are.
At the moment, Fiona's gone off and got another job, so we have no marketing person as such.
How rude.
I don't think she thinks it's rude. I think she considered it necessary for career advancement.
Not my problem.
Yeah, her full-time job was with another company in this building, so it was really convenient.
For us?
For us, yeah. But now she's moved on.
Right, where are we?
Alright, so Lincoln seems to be messing around with the bottle at the back, so he's gone back to not just doing the orthographics, but actually doing the concept, in particular on that bottle at the back of the gun. Let's advance from there.
Please.
This is what Lincoln described as noodling. So he's now noodling
Niddling.
with the bottle at the
Niddling,
back.
it's niddling.
Okay. So now I can see what he's done here is he's grabbed a copy of the image in the top left, and he's cutting and pasting pieces out of that image into the orthographic images, so that he gets to preserve the colouring and textures.
It's very shiny.
It is the black. I mean the
stock.
Is very shiny.
It's interesting watching him build it up from the bottom, because artists these days really don't often have to do anything from a blank canvas, do they? They often start with a model, a render of something, a photo.
Yeah.
So it's interesting watching him painting in that canister.
So that's how we ended up with the gold canister.
Got Lincoln niddling.
I don't know. Lincoln noodling should just be called loodling.
Loodling. No, it's liddling. Seriously, we've talked about niddling
I know, yeah.
many times.
I remember.
Oh.
So do you think everybody's got the idea of that? So let's
Lincoln niddling.
kill that for a
Fairly
moment.
self-explanatory.
We're going to go back to our and we're going to go to Sergi's videos.
Does Sergi niddle? Sergi does niddle, doesn't he?
He niddles a lot.
What are you doing there?
I'm trying to find the crossbow blocking.
Criminy, I would have thought it might be a good idea to have them all in the same place.
That would have been a great idea.
I know.
And rather than being called crossbow blocking, it was called blocking the crossbow, which made it doubly hard to find.
So what exactly is, explain for the viewers, what is blocking the crossbow?
So this is Sergi blocking the crossbow, which means he's doing a rough approximation of the crossbow. So he's using very large coarse shapes, so lots of rectangles and building up segments of rectangles. So as you can see, the result is it looks pretty coarse and rough compared to the concept art. And there's our taser at the front.
I truly believe that is a taser. You keep on saying we don't know why that's there. Surely somebody does, because somebody put it there for a purpose. Who put it there?
Lincoln put it there.
Why do we never end up asking Lincoln?
Lincoln said he didn't know what it was for. He said he just liked the look of it.
Fuck.
So,
Fair enough. So still nobody actually knows what it's for.
no,
Okay.
it's a mystery. But internally we should solve it and then leave it as a competition for the viewers.
I don't think it's that much of a mystery. There's only a couple of ways you can go with it, aren't they? And a bunch of 7-year-olds identified them this morning.
Yeah, well, they also pointed out the absurdity of having a crossbow being used as a melee weapon. So if you're trying to poke people in the eyes with it or something like that, it is a bit absurd.
Yeah, but sometimes you don't want to be in the middle of something during a melee, do you? But you kind of end up there by accident, or the melee kind of lands on you.
So just going to slow that down a bit.
I don't see why. My epileptic fit shouldn't be bothering anybody.
It was starting to bother me. The speed at which that thing was shooting by. Yeah, so even with these rough course shapes, you can start to see how this crossbow is actually emerging.
Lovely.
And now there's a lot of detail stuff which isn't necessarily shown because we're not showing every orthographic direction, like from behind. So we're starting to see where Sergi gets to, I guess he gets to take a bit of artistic license. So since it hasn't been designed, he gets the chance to design it.
Bless. And in fact, as we were talking about before, sometimes when something has been designed, Sergi enjoys redesigning it in any case.
Indeed he does.
Well, why not?
And the pulleys, which Sergi keeps calling cogs.
No, he doesn't. He keeps calling them cocks. It's a whole other thing.
I interpreted that as cogs, so I'm good.
No idea why.
Right, now we actually see Sergi doing some sculpting, which is not what he's supposed to do in the show, but
but he went rogue.
Because this one was specifically on blocking it in, and what he's actually doing now is sculpting this particular piece, and I guess he felt just uncomfortable with having the wood part shown as a blocked in item, so he's actually gone out of his way to create some more polys, soften it down. So this is no longer an assemblage of geometric shapes. It's actually got some curve and organic structure to it.
He's putting in a lot of effort considering how little he likes hard surfaces.
He doesn't like hard surfaces?
No, we've talked about it endlessly.
I know he prefers doing his character modelling, but I thought he was actually getting to enjoy the hard surface modelling.
Not so much. Well, I think he probably likes the end result. Zipping it up. You're mesmerised.
I am. That's I don't think I noticed this on the stream on the day, but he's inserted those bits from the metal part of the handle into the wood. And I didn't expect that. I thought they'd sort of be bolted to the wood.
But this gives so much more integrity to the weapon.
Maybe so.
Structural integrity. Just saying to somebody before, they really, the artists and the modellers really have to be quite clever about how they approach mechanical things or things that, well, hard surface things particularly, so that, because they actually have to work.
Well, they do, especially when it comes to animating. One of the things we discussed with Sergi before was when he put the gas bottles on the crossbow, where the actual rotating drum is. he originally had them attached to that drum, but they can't be because they're dragging behind them some copper tubes that actually feed into the gun elsewhere. So that situation just wouldn't work. The other thing that's quite important here, or it's sort of quite important later, is that iron sight that he's actually building there has to work, because in the game that is how you actually sight the weapon.
Yep.
Ultimately you'll have no reticule for this weapon, so you will simply be gazing down an iron sight.
That's that dreadful word, reticule.
Hmm.
It's wrong. It sounds like some Victorian lady's underwear or something. It's just...
Take off your reticules.
Exactly.
Have a
See?
seat.
Do you see what I mean? It's awful. See, I'm right. Or you wouldn't be laughing.
It didn't occur to me.
Absolutely horrible.
It does change my opinion of what
There you go.
my reticule sounds like.
Yep.
Come, my dear, off with those reticules.
Off with that
and
reticule.
Up in the stirrups.
Oh.
Have we got anybody talking to us today? We could be talking to ourselves.
That's now a million times worse. Thank you very much. It's not improved my opinion of the word reticule.
You gave me an image, I gave you one back.
Yep. Thank you. Oh. Can't unsee that.
So we've moved to the front of the crossbow now as far as the blocking in goes.
God. It's all happening awfully fast.
It's about 5 or 6 times faster here.
So what is the purpose of blocking in? So you mentioned that it is to create some sort of a rough replica of the concept art. What's the purpose of it?
And in this case, because it's a hard body model, a lot of it will remain with those geometric blocks having been made. But there's a lot of the model that can now be sculpted or sculpted, as Sergi says. So so those iron sights and things like that, they can be rounded more. The wood, of course, as we saw already, Sergi could not resist the urge to actually soften the whole shape of that into something more organic than blocked in. The cylinder will appear rounder than it is, so some of this is sculpting, some of it is trickery done with
trickery.
With normal mapping or weighted normals. So I guess we can probably stop this here and assume that we can probably go to the end a bit so we can see the final.
Whatever are you doing?
I was trying to get to somewhere where we can see the final thing. There we go, that's good enough. So there is our blocked in model, which looks a good deal more sophisticated than Lincoln's original model. Lincoln's not a modeler per se, although he does have some skills, enough skills to support himself in doing these models. But yeah, so that's Sergi's blocked in version.
How long did it take him?
I don't know, I can't remember. And now we're going to do...
Because that's an awful lot of geometry, isn't it?
slow this down. So this one is... That's not working for me. So this one is Sergi doing the high and low poly sculpting.
I think we can slow it down a wee bit. It's not very watchable. Thank you.
Yeah. So here he's starting to create things with essentially what will have hundreds of thousands of polys in that. So smoother edges, all the rest of it, and of course the high poly sculpt we don't actually use in the game, but it is the source for things like our normal maps and so forth. So a high poly sculpt, when we've got all the details actually in there, then some of those details can actually be turned to texture and normal map, and so that's the point of actually doing it. So Sergi's actually, and the other thing he's fond of is weighted normals, which is creating the curves on things like that drum and the back end of the drum there. Normals, for those, I've talked about normals before, but essentially when light falls upon an object, there's that formula you learned in school where the angle of incidence equals the angle of reflection, so the light just sort of bounces off at the same angle that it comes in on. Turns out if you can actually adjust where the light actually, or how the light actually bounces off, that you can mimic depressions and depth in things. So when we look at that cylinder, for example, if it's made up of...
notes for himself.
Yeah. If it's made up of 8 segments, then each of those segments will be flat, and the light hitting any part of one of those segments will bounce off at the same angle. But with a weighted normal, what happens is at the center of that thing, the light is bouncing in a normal way, but it's actually perturbed a little bit in either direction depending on what side of the center of that shape it is, so that it looks more like it's a curve. So a clever trick. Oh yeah. So here's Sergi noodling because he's gone back to reshape the wooden bit.
Sergi does noodle.
He does.
I suspect anybody creative does. In fact, probably even developers do some noodling from time to time.
So can we speed that up?
Could we just fast forward?
Sure.
What are we noodling with here?
So he seems to be up underneath the trigger thing, doing a lot of fooling around with the trigger guard.
Amazing how much detail, how much work goes into some tiny, tiny aspect of a model, isn't it?
Yes. And I'm not sure everybody would approve. Small studios like ours generally don't put this amount of detail into the models, but we have committed ourselves to doing something really high quality and really beautiful with this game. So, the hell with it, we are.
High quality and beautiful, we bloody well will.
So no doubt people will marvel at how good the modelling is.
I really hope they look underneath and they see that trigger and they see all the detail and they marvel.
Most people won't, of course. They'll just play the game and go, oh.
But we'll feel good.
It stuck when that zombie came down the side of the wall at me. There is one comment I have seen on almost every indie game, sooner or later, either in the beginning or the years afterwards, is the comment, worst game ever. It seems to be the most popular thing you can throw at a game.
Well, we can only hope to do as well.
Those comments are actually hard to read, so yes, they do actually affect us, but they don't actually affect anything about the development of the game. we look at real criticisms really carefully. Like, in one game we did, the turning animations were quite abrupt. When we were told how noticeable that was, we paid attention to that and changed that. So that's positive feedback, positive criticism that we can actually deal with and act. If somebody says worst game ever, there's not much you can do about that. Especially when other ratings have been like 8 out of 10. So clearly not worst game ever.
Clearly not.
Oh, one of the things that Matt told me today, I'm not sure if you overheard, but about Dot Clock, is somebody had actually put a critique on Dot Clock and said it was a total Rick and Morty rip-off, even though it was years before Rick and Morty.
Oh, that's genius, isn't it? God, yes.
So, which is good because it means Rick and Morty ripped us off.
Well, they owe us. Fantastic.
Okay.
Haters gonna hate.
Let's go further. Alright. So at this point you can see a lot of the softening of edges and so forth. For some reason, Sergi's doing a bit of UV mapping there. Must have been appropriate or time.
Seemed like a good idea at the time.
I think maybe as part of the sculpt he does some UV mapping as he goes along. I guess we can't expect it to be an entirely linear process. Plus it must, when you actually come to the end of a thing like this, it must be pretty daunting to have a look at all the details and all the rest of it and go, oh, now I've got to UV map that. So it's probably nice to have done a bit of UV mapping.
Me vaping?
Me vaping, yeah, along the way. Yeah, so this is Sergi's trick of putting the thing in a light room so he can have a look how the light behaves on the material. Not just on the material, but on the model itself. Once it's, once he's applied his
So
various normal mapping tricks.
So a material being
whatever the surface of that is. So there'll be a metal material for those two things at the front.
So what's the difference between a material and a texture?
The material is probably more detailed than a texture in that it will be carrying with it things like the actually it's probably something we should ask an artist rather than me trying to explain my understanding of it, because I've no idea if I'm right. But for me, there's a mixture of texture maps that actually go into making a material. Linda, can we borrow you? Come and join our stream temporarily. We want you to explain something complicated to us.
No pressure.
Right. What is the difference between a material and a texture?
Texture is kind of like the color.
Mm-hmm.
And also for the...
And that's also called the albedo map, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the material is kind of like to give you a basic idea of what's this object made from. It's kind of like mental or just just no shading materials like skin or the clothes. So that's called material.
Okay, so it can be a mixture of different maps to make a material.
Yes.
And shaders.
Yes.
Yeah. So a material is just a good deal more complicated and supposed to give you the actual feeling of a real substance in the world, like wood or metal or glass. Yeah. Thank you. That was it. Linda, everybody. Okay.
Linda, everybody. Sounds like a cabaret.
It does. Big round of applause, but we don't have enough audience for a big round of applause.
Probably not.
Oh, pardon me. Okay, so how far along should I pursue this? Well, we seem to have gone back to something very simple there. What's Sergi doing? I was part of this stream and I don't know. Okay, so he's duplicated a few things and he's trying to match them. That's right, because he wasn't using symmetry when we were actually doing this. So he had to match from side to side.
Mm-hmm.
Alright. And
So much better in colour.
yeah. Well, what he's actually doing here is he's able to have a look at the UV map and determine where the islands are by their colour. So he can compare things in the 3D shape. With
So what is an island? We keep on talking about these things without ever really talking about what they are.
So the UV map is essentially a flattened out version, a 2D version of the 3D shape.
Mm-hmm.
And each contiguous shape, each shape that's all together in one piece rather than separated over pieces, is called an island. So let's see if I can walk it back to the map so we can see it or not. Maybe not. We'll get to see it in the texture mapping bit anyway. Okay.
The end.
Right, let's go and have a look at texturing. And we will actually advance this quite a lot. So I'll run it at twice speed here. So now's when we're going to actually put the surface on this shape. At this stage Sergi will have already had a play, so he'll have a pretty good idea of what materials he's actually going to use and what textures.
Sweet.
Have we got our Twitch thing up?
Yes.
Oh, actually that wood looks really good. Didn't see a nice crack down the back of it. Like it was
Looks
a
like
real
a
piece of wood.
70s shoe.
Hmm.
You just get all out of my Twitch business.
I was looking for comments because we haven't had anybody talk to us today.
There aren't any. But lots of people like us on Twitter.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Alright, so Sergi fooling around with the light on that wood now. Oh, that looks really ugly. So if somebody hasn't looked after their gun, it goes rough like that. Probably be a good idea at some point in the future to do this with each of the artists responsible for their own stuff actually talking about this stuff rather than us making up, but yeah.
Well,
So the second
we
material
have
now.
been.
But I mean in this flow where we're doing one day spent on the crossbow
Oh,
and one
definitely.
day spent on the pistol.
If Sergi was here, that would be a great idea. It's interesting he's got the wood grain going down instead of along the length of the stock.
Yeah. I'm just trying to just trying to recall actually whether I'm thinking of the stock of my father's rifle. see whether it actually runs horizontal or vertical
Wonder no longer.
on the stock.
I'm going to look for Google.
Good idea. And if he's got a job, we've got something. I mean, if you find something, we've probably got a job for him when he gets back. Fix this.
Yeah.
In general, if it looks good, we don't really care.
Images. No, it goes along. Oh, that's not even wood. That looked like a shotgun to me. Bloody hell. Carry on.
We're out with all those ones.
Yep, we'll go along.
All right. You can break the news then.
Break his little heart.
So, gee, the wood grain needs to go along.
It definitely does. Right, what are we looking at?
We're looking at the same thing. I was hoping they'd actually bring up that index map so you can have a look. There it is, okay. See, an island is one of those individual shapes that's not connected to any other. That's an island. And in that case, that was really bizarre because there was one island that was a ring with another island in the middle of it, not part of the same shape, but Sergi just found that he had space inside that ring to fit another shape.
I'm just checking whether crossbows are the same, but you should keep on talking. Modern crossbows are
Did
pretty
you
ugly.
say that just because I took a mouthful of biscuits so I'd be embarrassed?
Oh wow. That is an unprecedented level of projection. No.
Because I couldn't respond, so I was embarrassed.
Oh good. That's a nice side effect. But no, all wood grain goes along because otherwise it's just not strong enough.
Oh, okay.
Well, it breaks across along the...
I guess so. Probably breaks along the...
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, good for you for your eye for detail.
Oh yeah.
Now get Sergi to fix it.
Not my job, matey Skip. You're CTO.
It's not my job. I like it as it is.
Oh then. Counterproductive to ask me to fix it.
It's alright. It's faux wood grain. It's actually plastic from the 1910s. Or 1830s.
Some of these crossbows are incredibly complicated. They look more like instruments of torture than, you know, like something you'd use close up. Some of them are very, very simple. Anywho.
Alright. So let's skip along a bit. Wait for it to actually reboot. There we go. So now we can see mostly done. Let's skip along even further, because we can. Or skip close to the end. Excuse me. So when this catches up, yes. Alright, so now we can see most of the textures have been applied. And see Sergi roughing in a few rivets and screw heads and so forth. He basically put together some no, don't know what's happened here.
So we had a little chat, putting some stuff on Slack.
Yeah. Oh, okay. He's preparing to actually put this in his room, his launching room, where his models actually go.
His models and his limbs.
Yeah. So that's the actual crossbow. Probably. So that's a rendered version. So he has completely rendered that out. Seems to be changing the lighting on it now.
So again, this might be a good time to explain what you mean by rendering.
Really? How do you explain rendering? Okay.
That's a problem. That's a you problem.
So essentially all the bits and pieces that have been added to this model all do their tasks separately. So when you're actually looking at that thing, they're having there's a round, or there's a graphics draw call that is first of all gathering all the shapes, calculating the occlusions, so the things that can't be seen, taking the textures and applying them, running the shaders that are needed to actually create special effects on the thing. So basically there's a lot that needs to happen, and that will happen when you're in the tool that we're actually using. So if you were doing this from I forget the name of the tools that he actually uses, but whatever tool he uses, that's the tool that can actually open this thing and actually see it. But creating a render sort of flattens down all that process into an image. So rather than a sequence of instructions, it's going to turn it into an image that you can then view anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So rendering will apply the normal maps, it will apply the textures, all that sort of stuff will actually happen, and create one consistent image. And once you've actually seen a render, then you get a chance to think about what else you need to do to make the thing look good. Right, so crossbow texturing, and I think that we actually have
You've stopped mid-sentence.
yes, we actually have something. No, what we haven't, oh that's right, I'm looking in the wrong folder. So I need to look in Linda's folder now, and we will find rigging the crossbow. So now is when we actually make the crossbow fire.
So talk about rigging in general a little bit.
Right, so rigging is really how you prepare something for animation. Now with a human character this is really easy to understand, because what you do is you apply something that looks like a human skeleton to your character, so that the arms and legs and body all bend the way our skeleton would allow us to bend. So rigging is about putting in a series of bones and constraints on those bones, so they can only move essentially in the way you want them to move. Now rigging the crossbow is somewhat different, because what we need to do here is identify all the moving parts and relate them with a graphics controller, so that we can do things like draw the string and release the string on the crossbow, and that the cogs at the end of the bows will actually respond, the arrow will respond. So that's really what rigging is all about. And I think Linda actually finishes this up with the animation as well that she's doing, so we can speed that up. I'll run that at 5 times speed. So now you can see Linda actually sorting out the bones that actually go into the bow part. That's going to allow that bow to bend.
It's going a little bit quick to be really viewable.
Well, why don't you settle it down to whatever speed you need. It's the square bracket keys, left and right.
No, carry on. Just this is just too fast to get anything out of, but maybe we could fast forward it. Same as before.
Okay. Let's slow this down then.
Because I can't understand anything from this process if I watch it that fast.
Okay, so here Linda is working just with one side of the crossbow, so presumably using symmetry to, once she's finished, copy her stuff to the other side.
It's going to fire awfully strangely if she doesn't.
It's got me curious now whether you can do that or not. What does two sides of the crossbow give you rather than just one side? I suppose
A straight line.
Yeah. I suppose it does actually even out the forces on the crossbow.
Mm-hmm. Straight line and a whole lot of power.
Yeah. Now, once again, now that you've seen the fully textured version, when Linda works, of course, she's straight back to just working in the geometry or doing the animation. But later, I think she actually renders this and presents it.
Cool. So is it worth skipping forward a little bit now?
That thing on the end from back there looked like a frog with its arms up.
I didn't see.
See? Oops, let's try that again. Frog with its arms up. Don't shoot me.
Yes, that's right. Is it worth skipping forward a little bit now that we sort of understand what's going on there?
Okay. You can drive this thing, you know. You don't have to use me as the remote. You can do whatever you like. The mouse is in easy reach. Wow, what's happening here? I guess, well, no, I don't want to say that.
You've got to say something.
Yeah. I was going to say, I guess you don't actually need any of the, because we've seen what Linda's done previously is she actually pulls stuff off the model when she's doing the animation. So, like when she animates King Leon, she takes the skirt off in all the rest of it until she gets towards the end of the process, and then she puts the skirt back on and checks for clipping and all the rest of it against the skirt.
Yep.
Here there are less opportunities, I'm sure, for actually doing that. So her process is going to be quite linear. Man, I am in the sleepy portion of the room again, so I'm feeling muddle-headed.
Me too. Well, I just want to go to sleep. Well, I almost can't avoid going to sleep. However, there's only 4 minutes of awake time to go.
You see the frog with his hands in the air?
Yes. But
I'll not be able to unsee that now.
oh God. Why is it so sleepy here?
I don't know.
What are we looking at?
Well, this I'm actually curious as to what we are looking at here. Is there seems to be some little fight here about trying to make the bow look more powerful, I guess. Because when you have a look at, and I hadn't really noticed this previously, when you have a look at how far that bow travels and the speed it travels at, it doesn't actually look like a very powerful weapon.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming Linda's fixed that up by fiddling with the ends of the line, cable, whatever you call it, the string.
Mm-hmm.
So fiddling with the amount of deflection on the bow and the tension on the string and all the rest of it. she manages to make it look more powerful than it did when it first came in. Because as a still, it might look okay, but it's actually got to look great in video, which means you don't really want to see the target leave, or you barely want a frame of the target leaving. Do tell.
Tell what?
We're in dead air here.
Well, I reckon we could just about call it a day.
Alright, so let's scream ahead on this and see where we get to. Okay, you still see there was a problem up in the top left hand corner of that bow, and that's probably because it wasn't done symmetrically. Alright, so this is actually the crossbow being pulled and firing.
Super.
Yeah. And one last straighten of the animation curves, which we've managed to avoid to this to this point. Yeah.
Very good.
Alright, so today that was Brooke and Margaret doing a recap on the building of the crossbow for our game After the Light, our zombie horror game. So crossbows finished, pistols finished, I think grenade launchers underway, so we'll soon have a full complement of weapons in that game. In the meantime, you might want to join us to watch the development of the game via Twitch. Switch.
Wow, yeah.
Having a few issues here in the dozy part of the room. Yeah, so you might want to what was I saying before that?
I don't
Join us
know.
on Twitch. Anyway, so join us on Twitch tomorrow at 1 p.m. New Zealand Standard Time or 1 a.m. UTC. And maybe we need to think about doing this at an earlier time of the day, as suggested by the Soy Hendrik, who didn't show up today. So keep an eye out for us then, and from Margaret and Brook, bye for now.
See you